Bonjour tout le monde. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I'm so glad you could join me for another episode of Learn French with Madame. Today, we are going to talk about les verbes réfléchis au passé composé. So, just recently, we learned about reflexive verbs, and I told you that we talk about them in the passé composé a little bit later on. So, now we're going to talk about what the reflexive verbs look like in the passé composé. So, let's get started. The first thing that I want to talk about are where reflexive verbs go in the passé composé. So we already know that we have to have a reflexive pronoun and then the verb. So we have to have that pronoun me, te, se, nous, vous, or ce with the plural. So it's still going to go before our helping verb. And it's important to note that all reflexive verbs in French are going to use the passé composé with être. So if you're not too familiar about the Passé Composé or you don't remember, you need a refresher, look in the description of this video and I will put a link to my previous video on the Passé Composé with être, so you can give that a watch as well. So with reflexive verbs, knowing that they all use Passé Composé with être means that the reflexive verbs are going to have an agreement with our subject. And I'll talk about that in a little bit. But it's going to have the same agreement as it does normally. So you add an E if it's feminine, an ES if it's feminine plural, or just an S if it's masculine plural, or both masculine and feminine. Because remember, the masculine trumps the feminine. So if it's just masculine singular, you don't add anything. So I have a couple examples I wrote out here with the verb se laver, to wash oneself. I have a masculine form written out, and then I have a feminine form written out. So give this a look over. I'm not going to read through all of it because we would be here until forever. So give it a look over. I'm just going to read the first example on both sides. So the first one on the masculine side, we have je me suis lavé. And then on the feminine, je me suis lavé. They're both pronounced the same. The only difference is that now we have an extra E. So quick recap on this slide before we move on. Your helping verb is going to go right before your past participle like it does normally, but now your reflexive pronoun is going to go before your helping verb. So your order is reflexive pronoun, helping verb, and then past participle. All right. So the next thing I want to talk about is that reflexive verbs don't have an agreement when a body part follows the reflexive verb. So by example, I mean, if I say Marie s'est lavée, Marie was washing herself, Marie washed herself. But if I say Marie s'est lavé les mains, Marie washed her hands, there's no agreement. By this, I mean when your subject, so Marie is our subject, so when your subject is the direct object, then you make the agreement, only if you need to. But if your subject, Marie, is not a direct object, then you don't make the agreement. So, example on the left, Marie is our direct object. What is being washed or who is being washed? Marie. On the right, what is being washed or who is being washed? The hands. So the hands are being washed. The hands are our direct object. So hopefully that helps it make a little bit more sense. All right, here's another example. Nous sommes brossés. So we brush ourselves versus nous sommes brossés les cheveux. So like I said, when your subject is the direct object or when your subject is receiving the action, then you make the agreement if you need to. But if it's not receiving the action, then you don't make that agreement. Okay, so a couple examples. These are all in the present tense. I want you to take a little bit of time to go through and write them in the passé composé. So I gave you everything that you needed. You just have to put them in the passé composé and tell me whether or not you have to make an agreement. So if you have to make an agreement, you're going to want to make that agreement. All right, I'll give you a little bit of time to fill this in. If you want to pause the video, now would be a good time. Okay, so for numéro 1, Emma et Jacqueline, vous vous levez à 6 heures. So we're asking Emma and Jacqueline, do you guys get up or do you guys wake up at 6 a.m.? we needed to say, Emma et Jacqueline, vous vous êtes levées à 6 heures. So Emma and Jacqueline, did you all get up at 6 a.m.? So we make the agreement because our subject is the direct object. So we make leve have an es because it's feminine and plural. Numéro 2, ma mère se maquille la figure. So my mom is putting on makeup on her. So my mom is putting makeup on her face. In the passé composé, it should have been ma mère s'est maquillée la figure. Ma mère s'est maquillée la figure. So we do not make an agreement here because la figure is the direct object. What has makeup being put on it? The face. Numéro 3, mes oncles ne se rasent pas tous les jours. My uncles don't shave every day. Au passé composé, in the passé composé, it is mes oncles ne se sont pas rasés tous les jours. So we make that agreement because there's direct object as mes oncles. So my uncles are receiving the action of raser, to shave. I also want to talk about with the negative, with reflexive verbs and the passé composé. You're still going to put your ne and pas around your helping verb like you would normally, but you're going to put that reflexive pronoun in the negative too. So it would go ne, reflexive pronoun, helping verb, pas, past participle. So normally in the passé composé, we go ne, helping verb pas. Now you're just adding that reflexive pronoun in before your helping verb. Okay, so reflexive verbs when there's two verbs. So you've already are familiar with the future proche with aller and an infinitive. So I have aller and an infinitive example written out here, but now the reflexive pronoun when you have two verbs is going to match the subject. So the example that I have, je vais me coucher tôt ce soir. So I am going to bed early tonight. So that je vais me coucher, you put your reflexive pronoun in between your infinitive and your verb, your conjugated verb. So it should be conjugated verb, reflexive pronoun, and then your infinitive. La deuxième exemple, the second example, nous aimons nous lever tard. So we like to get ourselves up late. So nous aimons nous lever tard. So we're going to put our reflexive pronoun nous in between aimons, our conjugated verb, and lever, our infinitive. All right, so I have a couple examples here I want you to go through and fill in. You have to create a complete sentence. So créer une phrase complète. I gave you pretty much everything that you need. Some of them have two verbs, some of them do not, but you'll have to go through and conjugate one of them or conjugate only just the one verb and make sure that you have the right reflexive pronoun as well. All right, so if you're watching this on YouTube, you want to pause this video so you can complete these. Okay, for numéro 1, we should have put je dois me maquiller. Je dois me maquiller. Remember, we don't conjugate that second verb because it's the second verb in our sentence. But we have to conjugate the first verb and our pronoun has to match our subject. So, je dois me maquiller. Numéro 2, we have tu aimes se lever and tôt. Our answer should have been tu aimes te lever tôt. So remember, we only conjugate that first verb and we have to make sure that our reflexive pronoun matches our subject. Numéro 3, we have vous allez se dépêcher. So vous allez se dépêcher, conjugated and written out in our sentence, is vous allez vous dépêcher. So remember, you don't conjugate that second verb, you leave it alone, but make sure that your pronoun reflects with the subject. Et c'est la fin. I know that was a lot of information, so if you have any questions, please feel free to email me, reach out if you need help. I'll also make sure that this and some examples are posted in Google Classroom. But stay tuned et à plus!